Amazon với mức giá cực kỳ ưu đãi như đăng ký brand với USPTO, tuần theo Liên, theo, tuần trên Scout, logistics và warehouse. Xem hình thông tin chi tiết dưới phần mô tả nhé.
A huge part of PPC is launching campaigns. There's a lot of different types of campaigns. There's auto, broad phrase, exact keyword campaigns, product targeting campaigns. So in this section, I'm going to talk about all of the different types of campaigns there are, what they are, how to utilize them, and specifically during launch. So a lot of questions regarding PPC is, how do you structure your launch? And obviously a lot of it depends on, what's your budget? Can you spend a lot of money? Do you have to spend a little bit of money? So as I explain the different types of campaigns, I'm also going to go into which ones should you use at launch, how I use mine at launch, and how to scale it back based on your budget. So obviously if you have an unlimited budget, you can use everything, you can double down on everything. If you have a limited budget, I'm going to talk about which ones have a higher chance of success versus other ones. So let's jump into Campaign Manager. So I'm in the main page here. Let's go to Advertising, Campaign Manager, open that in a new tab. And then create campaign. This is the main page. I think you can also click here and click on campaign creation to get there, but let's just click on create a campaign. Now that we're here, I'll talk about sponsor products. Sponsor products advertising will generally generate 80% of your sales. That's obviously a made up number, but it's the majority, right? The 80-20 rule. And the reason is sponsor products advertising are very native. So most people, when I ask, I'm like, open up a search result. What did you buy last week? They're like, oh, I just bought a hair curler. So they open up that hair curler search results, and I'm like, point out which ones are sponsored ads. They'll usually point out to the headline search ads, the video, stuff on the side, but they'll never see the native stuff, the ones that are at the top of the search, because they look exactly like organic results, just a tiny word that says sponsored. A lot of people actually shy away from clicking on ads, but in this case, because they don't really realize that it's an ad, they're much more likely to click on it. So I'm inside Campaign Manager. By the way, guys, this view has changed. So right now you're seeing the old view of Campaign Manager, but they are rolling out a new view. And in that new view, you'll actually get your ad group settings first before your campaign settings. But in all cases, I would suggest start with your campaign settings and then move on to your ad group settings. If you followed us along in Freedom Ticket, I talked about campaign structure. The way the campaign should be structured is one campaign, single ad group, and then the keywords. The reason that we do this right now in this moment is because we can't control the ad group level budget. So when you have multiple ad groups and you have one budget at the campaign level, you might get an uneven flow. And you can actually audit your own campaigns. Just click on one of your campaigns that has multiple ad groups, and if you notice that certain ad groups are getting a lot more sales than others, it might be that the budget is uneven. It's not evenly distributed. You can always audit your own campaigns, your ad groups, and your keywords, and identify what's not working, and then pause that and restart with a better format. In terms of campaign structure, since we have a single campaign and a single ad group in that campaign, we can keep the campaign name and the ad group name the same. So let's talk about campaign nomenclature or campaign naming convention. This is really important because it's very, very hard once you're at scale to find campaigns and understand what they do. So the best way is to have a really nice naming convention that helps you identify what the campaign is. So the way that I go about it is, you have the product code initially. Product code is any code that you make up that you can identify your product with. I don't suggest using ASIN because it's a very complicated. Pretend that you have 10 products. How can you track the ASINs? They're very complicated numbers. However, if it's an easy identifier, for me, Hard Work Unflavored, HU, Hard Work Blue Raspberry, HBR, Hard Work Energizer, Fruit Punch, HEFP. Those are my codes. Very easy for me to remember what code is what product. So that's the first part. And then I do a space dash space. And then the second part, which is what type of campaign is it? Is it keyword, broad phrase exact? Is it auto, close match, loose match, complements, substitutes? Is it product targeting? Is it category targeting? So what type of campaign is it? Then from there, space dash space, some sort of identifier. Where did you get those search terms? Is it a search term report? Is it Helium 10 keyword research? Is it just a product targeting campaign based on products that are low reviews? Whatever it is, just an identifier there so you can know where those keywords are coming from. And then you can have like a number, like a 1, 2, 3, because you might have 10 of the same thing, right? 10 keywords, all from Helium 10 keyword research, all of them are exact. So that's my campaign nomenclature. You can see on the slide exactly how it's broken up. And the best thing is you can download this and use it as your cheat sheet so you can follow along. And as you build your campaigns, again, this is just my naming convention. It's something that's made life very easy for me. Also, especially when you're doing things in the bulk sheets, you can find a lot of things pretty quickly. So you can follow that, or you can come up with your own naming convention and something that eventually your employees will be able to follow pretty easily as you develop and you have more PPC campaigns. So now that you've created your campaign name, match your ad group name to your campaign name. Unless Amazon rolls out a new setting where you can set budgets at an ad group level, for now you can just have one ad group, one campaign, and use the same name. There's no reason to have different names for your ad groups, different than your campaign name. But if you do have now multiple ad groups, name them something that's easy to identify. Again, the purpose is always to have something that's easy to identify. So we have the campaign name, the portfolio. So this is where we're gonna put the campaign. Remember, if it's let's say Hydrolite unflavored or Hard Work unflavored, I would put it in the unflavored portfolio. You want to always have your campaigns in a portfolio. It keeps everything neat and separate, and you can filter and look at the different portfolios and see the performance per product pretty quickly. Start date, whenever you want to start it, you can start it today or you can start in the future. End date, we usually don't use an end date because we want the campaigns to continue to run. And if they're performing well, why ever end them? Unless this is something that's specific. Let's say it's a certain campaign for Valentine's Day and it's a bunch of Valentine's Day keywords, then you might want to have an end date. From there, daily budget. This is an important one. I usually don't go any less than $100. What I found is when I'm under $100, Amazon throttles me. And what I mean by this is, even though I'm at like 30 or 40, I'm not spending the budget efficiently. But if I set it at 100, Amazon will start utilizing my ad budget pretty efficiently based on the bid level. So big budgets, low bids, and then you can work your way up and control your budget there. Obviously, it's dangerous because some days you can spend a lot more. And if you're really, really tight with your budget, then you can lower your daily budget or put budget caps. Again, I don't recommend any of this stuff because it makes Amazon interfere with how the keywords are spending. So I always recommend the biggest budget possible, start with a low bid to control the spending there, and then you can work your way up. Now, automatic targeting, manual targeting. In the next module, I'll cover manual targeting, but for now, we're just gonna cover automatic targeting. And what automatic targeting means is we're gonna use Amazon's data, or Amazon is basically gonna crawl our page, get all the information it needs, and then it's gonna automatically show us. There's 4 targeting groups that we're gonna cover, but let's cover them in a little bit. For now, we're at campaign bidding strategy. There's 3 different types of strategies, and it's very easy to understand what they do because there's a description right here. Down only will lower your bids in real time, where your ad is less likely to convert. Up down, it's the same as down only, but also works for up, so they'll increase the bids by 100% or decrease them if it means that you're more likely or less likely to convert. Fixed bids means they're not going to touch your bids. It's going to be the exact same thing. Down only is the most conservative one because it allows you to save money. Up down, you can utilize them when you're okay spending a little bit more money. So maybe branded campaigns, ranking campaigns, things like that. But do realize that you will more likely spend more money than if you're on a down only or a fixed bids. And then fixed bids stay the same. You can try testing the different ones. Try testing down only, up down, and fixed bids and see which ones produce the best results. PPC is always about testing. There's no right answer, there's no wrong answer, especially since things are always changing. There's human behavior in the back end, so test different things. Amazon's updating their stuff in the back end all the time, and see what's working for you and continue to do that. Creating an ad group, that's pretty simple. All we have to do is set up an ad group name, which is gonna match our campaign name. Then we go into products. Which products are we gonna add here? You have to add every single product SKU at the SKU level that you want to target. So you'll see here, I'm adding this one, but I also have more. I have this one, and I have this one. So I added 3 different SKUs. Now, sometimes those are different SKUs that you created for different reasons. Make sure you have them all in there. If you do create a new SKU, make sure to go back to all of your campaigns and add it in, or else once the old SKUs run out of stock, your campaigns will essentially shut down because the new SKU is not in there. Now, if we're doing variations, and I have all of my variations in that campaign, let's put the unflavored in here, the mango, the blue raz, and let's add all of the different variations. Assuming that in this campaign, I'm going to target all of the different variations. So whatever products that you have in this campaign, this is what the campaign is going to run for. Now, it's going to show this based on what Amazon thinks is best to show, or what Amazon thinks it's the highest likelihood of conversion. So you can't really control what's going to show up between these three. However, if you only add one type or one variation, then it's only going to show that variation. So you can basically decide what ads to show based on which products to put in. And a lot of this is testing. So you might have 3 different sizes, you put them all in, and then you go and look in the advertised product report. And you see that a lot of the clicks are coming through one separate size. And you can take that size, keep it in the campaign, and then turn off the other sizes, leave that, let it run, see the results. Next, this is automatic targeting. We can set a default bid, and that default bid is going to apply for all of our targeting groups. But the better way to do this is to have an individual campaign for each different targeting group. So let's go through what close match, loose match, substitutes, and complements mean. Close match will show your ad to shoppers who search terms closely related to your products. That's all the information we have, and that's all what anyone knows about what close match is. The only way to kind of figure out what close match shows is to go into your search term report once the close match campaign is running and look at all of the search terms that came up from that close match campaign. Then you have loose match, which are basically loosely matched search terms. Substitutes, these are products similar to yours. And complements, these are products that are complementary to your product. And that's all of the information that we have. So what I would do is I would turn off these 3 and keep 1. And so this would be my close match campaign. The reason that I break up close match, loose match, complements, and substitutes into 4 different campaigns is because their performance is different. If you're showing up for closely related search terms, think unflavored electrolyte powder, sugar-free electrolyte powder, very closely related. But if it's loosely related, it could be hydration drink, hydration powder packets, not as related to my product. And so the ROAS and the ACOS on those might be not as good as the closely related ones. As for the bid, what starting bid should I have really depends on what's my budget. So if I'm tight with money, I'll start low and work my way up, okay? If I'm like, I just want to buy data quick, I have the budget, I just want to understand what's working and what's not working, I can start at a mid or high bid, spend a lot of money, get that data, go into the search term report, identify what's working, extract it, identify what's not working, add it as a negative. So essentially, how much money you spend is basically you buying data. If you spend less money, you're buying less data. If you spend more money, you're buying more data, and it's just shortening the amount of time. Then from here, I can select which marketplace other than the US. In this case, I want to stick to the US, so I'm going to turn this off. And then adding negatives. So right off the bat, we can add some negative exact. Let's say, hey, I don't want to target my brand name. I want to keep that to my branded campaigns. So anything that has hard work, I can add it as a negative exact, or I can add it as a negative phrase. When I add something as a negative phrase, it's going to essentially not show up at all for any keyword that has hard work in it. And then this is nice because I know I never want to show for anything that has hard work. For me, what I personally do is I add my brand name inside of auto campaign as a negative phrase because I don't want that campaign to run for those keywords. I want my branded campaign to show for my keywords. And generally, I add my brand name as a negative phrase in all of my campaigns, right? Because the only campaigns that should show up for my brand name are my branded campaigns. Everything else should be getting me new campaigns. And remember, in launch, we're trying to harvest and identify new profitable search terms. So the goal of the auto campaigns, the 4 different auto campaigns, is Amazon uses our data, identifies search terms. Some of them are bad, some of them are good. We take that data, the ones that are good, extract them, launch them in their own campaigns. The ones that are not so good, add them as negatives, and then continue that cycle of identifying profitable search terms. Now, I never add a profitable search term as a negative in the auto campaign. So if the auto campaign identified a keyword that got good sales at a good ACOS, I'm not going to add it as negative because it's generating me money. What I'm going to do is extract that keyword and test it on its own. It might perform amazing, it might completely tank. The reason I do this is I don't want to add negative to something that's generating me money and then test it and then it doesn't work out. So that's why I'm not adding negatives of any keywords that I'm extracting. During launch, you have to be a little bit careful with your budget. So if you don't have a lot of money, I would suggest close match and substitutes. Those are the best ones that you can launch because they're very closely related search terms and they're competitors. Loose match might not get as good of a return. Complements might not get as good of a return. You can always launch complements and loose match with a smaller budget, smaller bids. See how it performs. If it performs well, you can scale it. Some products perform really well, so why not? But if you don't have that much budget, just be wary that it might spend money and not get good results. So you can focus on the ones that I think will get more results faster. But the only thing is, you have to follow the data. Always follow the data in the search term report results.
Anh chị đang bán hàng trên Amazon. Scout cung cấp các dịch vụ dành cho các nhà bán hàng trên Amazon với mức giá cực kỳ ưu đãi như đăng ký brand với USPTO, từ Thailand, từ trên Scout, logistics và warehouse. Xem thêm thông tin chi tiết dưới phần mô tả nhé.